Okay, so now that I'm starting to get a firmer idea what the boundary conditions are going to be, I'm going to start modelling in some of the side elements and also knowing now what I can do with making my own families, having done this window here. I'm just going to build on that and look at putting a fence in using the elements we need in the boundary fence there. So if you look closer here, you can see the basic configuration is to have these square posts, and they're every so often. And then you've got these intermediary spiked posts, I suppose, or pickets. So to find the railings, like I showed you before, the easiest way is to use open instead of trying to use load family. So just choose the main menu, open, or click the open folder button. Either way, it'll open any Revit file, project, family, or whatever. And then you just need to browse to the sample files folder. And the best one to use is the one I've given you on the P drive. And then again in that Revit library you'll see sample files, and then you'll see a railings project file. So that's the first thing you need to remember with system families. And many elements in Revit, of course, are system families, not loadable or in-place families. They can only be stored in project files. So you can't have walls, floors, stairs, roofs, or railings in family files. And so using load family to get those things will never work. And so they have to give, if they've got them in a library for you, they have to have those stored in a project file, which obviously has the RVT extension instead of RFA. And so you can see here we've got all these railings, and there are some that you could use as fences here. Looking closely, so some of these here are actually set up to work as fences. But of course, just going to open again, you also have the file called fences, which also has railings in it. But these ones are all set up to work as fences. And so you've got those two resources for fences, really. And of course using the railing tool generally for those. There are exceptions. If you've got a brick fence, sometimes it's easier to use a wall or just to model using extrusions. But when you've got a picket fence like the one we're doing, then it's generally easier to use a railing. And so you've got these two here, which probably would be the two candidates for the railing I'm trying to make. So I'm just going to select the first one there that looks the most like the one we want and show you how that's configured. So if I select it and go to Edit Type, and then you can see again at the top it's a system family, so we can't change the family, don't need to. Then the type is here, fencing vertical feature bar. And so then if I go to railing structure, you can see then we've just got these two rails, the top and the bottom, which are set to those heights there, 100 for the bottom and 900 for the top. So that's pretty straightforward. And they're defined with a profile. So to modify the shape of that rail, you need to modify or create your own profile family. So it's a 2D shape. Cancel that though. Then the pickets are made using the balusters. And so there are two. So you've got the one here that's got the spike on top and the one that doesn't. And so here in the patterns, you can see, there are three actually. We've got two in this section, in the main part. And so that's what you can see up here. and then there's another one down the bottom. The two to begin with that you have here are both called the same thing, which is a bit strange, but you can see quite clearly that they have different families used for those, and that's why they look different. So we've got the square one, and then we've got the one with the spear or the pointed head. And those are the things you can modify. So to make your own fences, you just need to make your own baluster families. And then you host those with the railing. And it's hosted by a railing type. And then you can see, like I was saying, there is a third one. So the end or the corner is done with this square, larger railing, and that's set down in this section for the corners or the end posts. So you've got those three baluster families. If we look at what you have here, it's something similar. So you've got the end post, and then you've got these intermediary ones, and then you've got these posts that are spaced every so often. Okay, so to make that, firstly you need to know how to go and edit those things. You could make your own, but it's easier in this case to just edit one that is already there. So, do you remember how to find a family when you can't select it in the view? Okay, so there's a bit of a trick to it. I can't just select this and then do anything, right click or choose any options to edit these balusters because I'm selecting the whole railing. So just remember, you can find any family in any file if you go to the project browser and go down to the families section at the bottom. And that'll list all the loaded families. So just click on the plus there. You can see all the families there. And then in this case, railings is already expanded for me. But it's not, you can easily just expand that. And then go down to the one you want to change. So, well, let's just have a look at the names again. I can see some of them there already. So if we just go edit type though, and look at this, we've got, let's look at this one, post with spearhead. Okay, so looking in the list there, we've got post with spearhead. Right click, and I can choose edit, and that's going to take me to the file that family comes from. Okay, so now I can edit that, and it's important that you have a look in the different views to see how some of the different conditions have been defined. So notice how here in some of these elevation views you can see that dimension with a name. And when it's got a name like that, you know it's a parameter, and that means it's an adjustable property. And so you can, if you want to, just select the dimension, type in a different value. So let's have a look at that image. How tall do you think that fence is? Yeah, possibly, maybe a bit less, but yeah, something like that. It'd be well over 2 metres. And so, yeah, let's say 2100, maybe 2200. Okay, so, and the good thing about this is that it's adjustable, so we don't need to get it right. But it's good just to play with that to see what it's going to do to the rest of that family. And so you know then that this bit at the top is moving with it, and that's really useful because I just want to change that and still have it move when I set different heights to this railing. Okay, so I'm just going to select that, edit extrusion, and make some changes. So maybe delete these two arcs, I don't need those. The lines are a bit heavy there, so I'm going to just change the scale to something different. And I'm going to align those edges and draw in some of my own arcs. Trying to pick up the midpoint there, so actually what I'll do is just draw in a line actually from the midpoint, so I don't have to worry about drawing a reference plane, and then just draw an arc. Snap into that, get rid of the line, and, keep the line just for one more step, mirror, and then can get rid of that line. Okay, so I'm not going to worry too much about locking or anything like that, because something I haven't shown you yet about reference planes when you're working in families is that they're set up to act as references. Now this one, it says not a reference, but let's have a look and see if I adjust this now, it should still go with it. If it doesn't, then I'll go and adjust it. So let's go for 1500, and there we are. So you can see it's taking this with it. So Revit looks for things like that, and I'd say what's happened here is, yeah, this one is already attached to a reference plane. So I don't need to do anything more there. Okay, so then I'll just check that in some different views so you can see that that's ready to go. So I'm going to go to Save As, Family, give it a new name. I'm going to save it into the balusters folder, and we'll call this post, well, we can't call it with spearhead, so we'll call it with pointed head. Alert. Okay, so then I'm going to go load into project, but I'm not going to load it into my project file. I'm going to load it into the fences file. And so now I can put it into this file then. And, well actually let's just look at this one here, that might even be better. So if we look at that one, and you can see it's only got one baluster family. I'm just going to show you one more before I start loading it in. So this one is actually the closest to what I'm going to set up. If I show you the way it's done, notice how it's got a series of baluster entries. And if you look at the way it's configured, it's got these, really they're weatherboards, I suppose, or palings, what could you call them, shiplapped maybe, whatever you want to call them, timber boards. And there are, what, about 15 of them. And so you can see there are entries for all of those. And then you've got the square one at the end. So that one actually is probably the closest. But I'm still going to check to see how many we have here. So looking at this image, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Yeah, it's about the same. Okay, so I'm going to use that one instead. So I'm going to just copy it to one side. Go to Edit Type, duplicate, and we'll call this fencing vertical metal bars. And I'll start by editing the balusters now. So I'm just going to go through and change these to the one that I've loaded. There we go, post with pointed head. Now, before I go too far, I'm just going to check that that's loading in properly. So yep, so you can see they're coming in. So back to Edit Type, and I can just keep going through and change all of those entries. You could, of course, set this up yourself. If you want to add in your own baluster entries, you just need to select one of them and then duplicate. And you can add your own, or you can delete them as well if you want to. But if they're already set up for you, it's sometimes a bit easier. So it doesn't take long to just go through and choose all of those. And then the last one, so I'll just skip to the end. So the last one here, so they've got it with the last, there's probably a good reason for that, to do with the spacing. We probably don't need to worry too much about that, so I may delete that one. So, yeah, I think, yeah, because they've got it probably overlapping. We'll see, I can always add it back in, so I think I'll delete that one. And so then the square here at the end could be done with one that's already set up in this file.
mil probably is okay, but I'll have to check that. We'll have to look at the height. That'll be done differently, but I just wanted to show you the basic idea. Okay, so you can see there I've changed the that post there. And then going back to the baluster placement, you have as well the start post, corner post and end post, and I can use probably the same baluster family, but you can see again, looking at the image there, these are higher, and probably later I can change that to a bigger one as well. It is obviously bigger than this one, I think. Not by much, but I think it is a little bit bigger. The main thing is the height is obviously different, so you need to put in a different offset there, so you've got a top offset setting, and you can make that different to the others. So I'm just going to set these all to square 50 mil for now. And so let's just look at that image again. Yeah, so the top offset for these needs to be lower. So I think it's maybe 80 mil, something like that. Okay, so you can just go through like that. I'll just click OK so you can see the changes. It's good just to check it as you go. So that will do the balusters for you. But then you also need to think about the rails. So going back to edit type, put the rail structure there, and so here we can probably again use one that's been used in those other families. So it doesn't hurt just to check what the name is of those. Let's just, okay, so here, I go edit type, look at the baluster, and also actually these are circular, so they're not going to be the best. So again, back to edit type, and in the rail structure, I can just see if there's one loaded that I can use, otherwise I'll load a new one, but for now, let's use what looks like this, so 20 by 20. Maybe the 20 by 25 might be even better. Oh no, we don't need a middle rail, so that can go anyway. There we go. So that's already getting pretty close. So I just have to go through and do the rest of the balusters. I won't make you watch me doing that, but once you understand those basic things, you can make pretty much any railing type that you need. So I'd need to still obviously put the material onto that rail. I'm sure you can work that out. And then also change the offset. So at the moment these are mounted on the surface of the rail. If you go back into there, I'm sure you can work out by adjusting the offset values there. You can adjust the placement left and right of your railing path. And in this case they'd all be centred, so that means you can basically make the offset for those 0. Okay, so it's 0 for each one. Okay, so it shouldn't take you long to do that. And there we are, so you can see now they're centering. Now they're not centering on the rail because the rail as well has an offset value, so you've got to go and look at that. So you can see here the offset's 25, so I'm going to make that 0 as well. And so you can see now that's all centering. Well, actually no, so the railing, the baluster, sorry, must have a slightly different setup, so I'm just going to look at it in plan to see that more precisely. Okay, so I can see here, especially if I go to a different scale, exactly what's happening in terms of those offset values. Okay, so measuring this, so what is it, 35? Okay, so it's all to do with the way those families have been set up. And so rather than going and adjusting the family though, I can go to the rail structure and just make the offset there, I think minus 35 should be right. Oh, okay, so that's moved. Okay, so I didn't account for the thickness of the handrail, so that is 20. So minus, so half of that minus 25. There we go, and that's going to centre it. Okay, so you can work that out in advance, but often it's easiest just to do a bit of trial and error and set those values as you go. So otherwise, railings are pretty straightforward. It's just a matter of getting those properties established. So I've just got to then set the remaining balusters to match the ones I've already done. And then, do you remember how to get that into your project files? Once you've done it, copy and paste. Yep, so hopefully that's pretty straightforward. Control C usually works, but on PCs for some reason it stops working sometimes, so clicking the copy to clipboard button is a bit more reliable. And then you can switch back to your project file and paste it anywhere. Delete it, and then whenever you draw a railing, I'm going to change my level here to street access. And so now I've got that railing there, which is probably going to be below the ground. Oh no, sorry, just not where I thought it was. Let's bring that forward. There we are. So if I go back and adjust that, or I can even adjust it here actually, it doesn't make much difference. And obviously that will be good enough for the fence. For the gates, you can probably just use another railing and move it to make it sliding. I think that's going to be good enough. You're lucky here you've got a sliding gate that is basically the same as the railing, so you could maybe make a copy of the railing that's a little bit different, because you can see the height there is a little bit different. And then it's up to you if you want to keep that fence. I'd probably replace it with a nicer one. It's not the most attractive, so you could definitely think about changing that, or even removing it. I don't even see really why it's there, other than to be in your way, really, so if you're a pedestrian. So that maybe can go, but think about the fencing you'll need otherwise in the site. And then just to finish up, maybe a few other site features would be good. So if you can work out the other planting that you might require and try to plan out which families are going to work for that. And so under massing and site, of course, you can use site components to place trees and other things. And you have even the cars sometimes are pretty useful. So the RPC, if you're going to use cars, these ones, especially things like this four-wheel drive, I know they look good, but they're full 3D models, and they can bog your file down a bit and just make everything slow down. This one isn't too bad, but it is still a 3D model. Some of the others that look really detailed are much worse. But if instead you use the RPC ones, they often look better. I know there aren't as many of them, but things like the RPC Beetle, and they'll barely slow your file down at all. So if you're trying to get something in there initially, just to get an idea about.
That one's slow.
Sorry?
That one's slow.
I know, it seems like it is, yeah. But the file size should be less. So let's just quickly have a look. RPC should be smaller, but yeah, they do things differently sometimes. So you can see the Beetle is pretty small. Let's see that four-wheel drive should be bigger. Oh, actually not too much. Yeah, so that's a pretty efficient 3D model. Some of them are just over the top. I've got some that are 20, 30 meg just for a car, which are perfect models, but again, bigger than most of your building models. And other than that, yeah, just try and get your site planning worked out with families and things like that.
More of that for the schematics, or just
yeah, well, you want to show some of the maybe the fencing isn't essential, but
the tree?
Yeah, you definitely want trees and things like that, and the entry shown. So you can see here, I've just tried to get, the levels, how I'm going to get from there. Yeah.
The entourage and that isn't such a big deal at the moment.
Not really. It's nice to always have some sort of scale element. So a person or something like that, just to give a bit of scale. And then I know perspectives aren't required, but you probably have enough to be able to do some really basic ones. And so I just thought I'd finish up showing you some navigation tricks you might or might not know. So sure, I know how to make perspective views using the camera tool.
I actually wonder if I can get my computer unlocked.
Yeah. Okay. I only unlock. I'll see if I can lock them individually. I'll only be like literally another minute or two.
Okay.
So when you're making your perspectives, have you been using the navigation wheel to control them?
Shift and move the...
Yeah, 3D.
Oh, right, yeah. So that's this is really worth looking at then. So, okay, so this is the only reason I use it. You probably have seen that thing, the navigation wheel, and when you're in a plan view or any other view, it's not going to do much for you. It does zoom and pan, and you can do that with the wheel. So you think, well, what's the point of that? But in a perspective view, click on it, and you'll see you get all these options that you don't have anywhere else. So when you do shift in the middle wheel in a perspective view, that's orbiting. And, oh God, I'm used to computers that have a graphics card. Okay, so that's struggling. But these other things should work. So if you want to look instead of orbit, right, so that's something you can't do normally. Because when you're in a regular 3D view, like one that's not perspective, you've only got one option, orbit around your target. But with the camera, you can orbit around the target, or you can rotate the camera around the target. Oh, sorry, what am I saying? You can rotate the target around the camera. Sorry, so that's what I'm doing here. So the camera's staying in place. It's like you're taking a photo and you're looking in different directions. Then you've also got the option to walk. So if you want to go and do a walkthrough, you can bring up that dot. So just by clicking and holding on the walk button, and then moving forward, and around, and go for a walk through the building. The plus and minus keys lift you up and down. Oh, sorry, the up and down keys, the up and down arrows, to go up and down through your different stories. And so moving backwards and forwards from that blue dot basically controls the way you walk through your spaces. There you go. Okay, so you can do a lot more than that. Just experiment with those different options. They're really useful when you're working with camera views, and sometimes the only way you can do some things.